what we're going to talk about today is the King of England's reaction to the events at Bunker Hill. Okay? Now, the king was actually shocked when he heard about this. He couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. And he proceeded to proclaim the colonists as rebels. Called them all rebels, and did two things pretty immediate after he heard of the events at Bunker Hill. So he was, first of all, he was shocked. Obviously, he was unhappy. And then because of the actions, he referred to the colonists as rebels, and he did the two following things. Do you think they're going to be good things? First thing he did is he ordered the Royal Navy, that would be the British Navy, to begin a tight naval blockade to close off all shipping into the colonies. Okay, so the first thing he does is he orders the Royal Navy, or the British Navy, to begin a tight naval blockade to close off all shipping into the colonies. He's going to pinch the colonies by not allowing anything to be brought in. By taking his Royal Navy and blocking, or putting a naval blockade out, to prevent ships from coming into the colonies. That's the first thing he did. Ordered the Royal Navy to begin a tight naval blockade to close off all shipping to the colonies. Second thing he did, which was kind of interesting, is he hired 10,000 soldiers from the German state of Hesse, called Hessians, to help the British fight these unruly Americans. Okay, he hired, paid in other words, 10,000 soldiers from the German state of Hesse, called Hessians, to help fight and subdue the Americans. So he went out and got outside help, hired soldiers. What do you usually call soldiers that are hired? Mercenaries, that a girl. Although that might be a little radical for this case, but that's what they're called. Soldiers for hire are normally called mercenaries. So the king hired 10,000 Hessians from Hesse, a German state, to help fight. Well, what do you think the Second Continental Congress did when they found out about the German soldiers being hired? They went to request aid too. So what did they do? They sent diplomats to 3 foreign countries requesting their support for the colonies. Who would they be? France, Spain, and the Netherlands. So the 3 countries that the Second Continental Congress sent diplomatic agents to request help were France, Spain, and the Netherlands. Who had that radical suggestion during the Second Continental Congress? And that radical guy, which is who? Patrick Henry. So he wasn't far off. He must not have been that radical, because that's what they did. Well, what else got formed after the Battle of Bunker Hill? What got formed? Continental Army under the direction of George Washington. So one night early in 1776, George Washington assembles his Continental Army, and they move in and occupy a place called Dorchester Heights, which is overlooking Boston and Boston Harbor. Okay, it's a heights, means it's a higher area. So in early 1776, George Washington takes his Continental Army and he moves in and occupies a place called Dorchester Heights. And Dorchester Heights was an area, high ground, that overlooked Boston and the Boston Harbor. Well, remember General Thomas Gage? The king wasn't overly impressed with his leadership after Bunker Hill, so he replaced him with another British general by the name of Sir William Howe. Okay? So General Gage was replaced by the king as commanding officer of British troops in America by General Sir William Howe. And Howe was kind of a realist. He looked around at the city of Boston and all the non-success really they had there, right? And he decided really isn't worth trying to hold the city any longer. So he orders the British fleet out of Boston Harbor on March 17th, 1776, and he takes out British soldiers on the same day, and he actually takes about 1,000 civilian loyalists with him. So Sir William Howe, surveying the situation in Boston, he sees Washington, the Continental Army has occupied Dorchester Heights. He's thinking, you know, we've had enough trouble here, so we're going to abandon Boston. We're not going to try to occupy Boston anymore. So he has the British fleet sail out of Boston Harbor on March 17, 1776. He takes out the soldiers and approximately 1,000 civilian loyalists as well. So the British have kind of given up trying to occupy what? Boston. Okay? They're not trying to control Massachusetts much anymore at this point. Okay, is everybody on board there? Okay, that'll take us to an interesting battle, the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge. Battle of Moores Creek Bridge. Well, this battle is going to be fought not in the north, but it's going to be fought in the south in the colony of North Carolina. Colony of North Carolina. Now, this battle in American history and Revolutionary War history is often referred to as the, quote, Lexington and Concord of the South. Okay? Which means it's really the first battle where? What was the Lexington and Concord of the North? First real battle of bloodshed fought in the North, right? So this battle in North Carolina at Moores Creek Bridge is often referred to in history as the Lexington and Concord of the South, or the first skirmish in the South. Now, this whole battle was set up by the governor of North Carolina. And what he did is he wanted to ensure that the North Carolina colony stayed loyal to who? England. Okay? He wanted to ensure that North Carolina stayed loyal to England. He did not want any rebel rousers or any defection, so to speak, in North Carolina. He wanted to stay loyal to England. So what did he do? He recruited approximately 2,000 loyalists that were living in North Carolina and sent them on a march. Sent them on a march through North Carolina. And they were to march to both Wilmington and Brunswick, North Carolina. And they were going to stop at Brunswick and wait. So the governor lines out approximately 2,000 loyalists that lived in the colonies, trains them, and marches them to both Wilmington and Brunswick, North Carolina, and has them wait. Why are they waiting, you think? Because they're going to be joined up with who? Who's going to join up with them? Well, not the Germans so much, that's a good guess, but British soldiers are supposed to meet them along with a very powerful British fleet. And what are they going to do? They're going to scour North Carolina, making sure that the colony stayed loyal to England. That was the plan. So these 2,000 loyalists are recruited by the governor, and they march to Wilmington and Brunswick. And when they get to Brunswick, they're going to be joined by British soldiers and a powerful British fleet to make their point that North Carolina is going to stay loyal. Well, because of this colonial spy network that we've been hearing about on the videos, the Patriots were fully aware of this plan. They got word what was happening. Okay, so the Patriots in North Carolina here, hey, 2,000 loyalists are going to march to Wilmington and Brunswick. They're going to be joined by British soldiers and British fleet, and they're going to make a point in North Carolina. So if you found that out, Olivia, and you were leaders like James Moore of the Patriots in North Carolina, what might you want to do? What would your strategy be? What? It's a bad answer. I'm giving you the command. You're James Moore. What are you going to do when you hear about this? attack who? Hey, quit saying I don't know, because you're going to get this right. Casey Wassam II. Who are you going to attack? You're right so far. You don't give yourself any credit. Who are they going to attack? What other people? You say, well, I don't know, one more time, I might punch you. So, who are you going to attack? You're right, who are you going to attack? You know, the more you say I don't know, the more I'm going to stand closer and ask you. Really? Those are beautiful red, white, and blue braces. You know, that's how close I'm getting. Who's he going to attack, Keisha? Who's he going to attack? Look at it, yeah, he's going to attack the Loyalists before they meet up with the British soldiers and fleet. Because I'll bet if the British soldiers and fleet get to Brunswick and there's nobody there, what are they going to do? Olivia?
No!
What are they going to do, Sage, if there's nobody there to meet? What? You say it.
I didn't say it.
Oh.
Somebody else did.
What? Well, they're going to leave. So if you're James Moore, do you want to beat him to the punch? If there's no loyalists to meet, they're going to go home. So they know what's happening. So what James Moore does is he stationed about 1,100 patriots at Moore's Creek Bridge waiting for these loyalists to show up. Okay? James Moore, Moore's Creek Bridge, chances are he owned the bridge or it was on his property, correct? Okay? Well, they had an interesting strategy. Moore's men actually ripped up the planking from the bridge and greased those log supports that they had the boards on with soap and tallow. Greased them all up. Okay? Probably not seen by the naked eye from a distance or even maybe close. So they rip off the planks of the bridge that they know they're going to cross to get to Brunswick, right? And they soap them all up, tallow them up, make them nice and slick. And then what did they do after they soaped them up and toweled them up? And then they went and did what? Just stood there waiting for them? No, they hid in the local brush. Well, on February 27th, 1776, just as the sun was coming up that morning, February 27th, 1776, these loyalists finally reached the bridge. And they're exhausted because they've been marching what? Continually, endlessly. So they get to this bridge that they got to get across. They're tired, weary from their all-night march. And they attempt to cross this slippery bridge. And as they're attempting to cross, what are these patriots doing? Opening fire. And they're located on the opposite bank of the bridge. So they watch these guys struggle as they try to get over the bridge. And they come out of the brush and open fire. Very short but fierce fight. And the Patriots won a decisive battle. They just crushed them. So in this very short and fierce fight, the Patriots took over 850 prisoners, all the weapons that the Loyalists brought, and they even were foolish enough to bring a pretty good supply of gold with them, and the Patriots took that also. Okay? Because these Patriots, I mean the Loyalists and the governor of North Carolina had no idea that the Patriots knew anything about this. So they take 850 prisoners, they take their weapons, which quite a few weapons with 850 guys, the ones they didn't kill anyway, they took their weapons too, and a large supply of gold. Guess how many men were killed and wounded on the Patriot side? Casey? Don't say I don't know. What's your guess? How many Patriots were killed? Can't be wrong. Huh? You're one off. One was killed, one was wounded. That's it. So it was a pretty big time victory for the Patriots. So, when these British soldiers and this powerful fleet arrived in May to join up with these loyalists, they found there were how many there? 0. So what did they do, Sage? What did these British people do, and the British soldiers and the fleet? What did they do when nobody was there?
Didn't do anything?
Yeah, they didn't do anything, but they did something. What'd they do, Taylor? They left, turned around and left. Okay? So, what did the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge accomplish for the Patriots? It shattered any British plans that North Carolina would stay loyal to who? Great Britain. Okay? Big victory. The first fight in the South turns out not much different than the first fight in the North. Patriot victories. Okay? Well, by the spring of 1776, we go to our next subtopic, which is the colonists decide to fight for their independence. Have we declared any independence yet? No, we have not declared it. So I'll kind of preface and end this lecture with this quote right here, or this particular statement. By the spring of 1776, the colonists decide that they will fight for their independence. The question I want to ask you, though, before we quit, is do 100% of colonists living in America believe this? No. Okay, and what we're going to do on Tuesday is we're going to tell you reasons why many colonists were apprehensive to fight for independence and why many colonists thought it was really important to fight for independence. So they're going to decide to do that, and a guy by the name of Thomas Paine is going to come into being here, and then we're going to decide to declare our independence. Okay, and what results from our decision to declare for independence? A document in history known as the Declaration